Hello, I'm Theolyn Cortens. Welcome to Signs and Wonders. Today's topic is about prophecy. I can imagine that I could actually run quite a few of these videos on the topic of prophecy, but this particular one was prompted because I recently came across a prophecy which I'd never seen before. It's quite perhaps an unusual one that you may not have come across. And this prophecy was made by a man who was burnt at the stake in 1321. His name was Guillaume Bellibost. I hope that's the correct pronunciation. He was a Cathar. And if you know anything about Cathars, the Catholic Church hounded them for their heretical ideas, what the Catholic Church considered to be heretical, and over a period of a couple of centuries they were gradually, their movement was gradually destroyed. And I think it was in the 1200s that there was a mass burning, but then a few of them were living on, and this man didn't die until 1321. And what he said was, I'm going to get my note paper so I get the quotation right. In 700 years, the laurel will become green again, and the good people will return. Now, 700 years from 1321, of course, is 2021, and that was why it caught my eye. Now, the Cathars called themselves parfait, perfect people, good people, and they were wanting to follow the Gospels of Jesus that weren't necessarily accepted by the church. They were called the Gnostic Gospels. And so they had a very particular way of thinking about how you should be, quote, good. They had particular theology, and the Catholic Church didn't agree with the way they thought about it. And the Catholic Church wanted everybody to go through the priesthood of Catholicism, and the Cathars didn't believe that you needed to do that. So that was why they were, not regarded as proper people, because they weren't baptized in the usual way. They weren't accepting the Mass and all the rituals of the Roman Catholic Church. So perhaps, the Catholic Church was justified, they thought, in just wiping them out, destroying them. It takes your breath away, really, when you think about it. To come back to the prophecy, I was intrigued by it because of the 700 years. And I looked at astrological stuff. I thought, well, is there any connection with 2021 and 1321 astrologically? And I couldn't see anything particular that jumped out at me. I noticed that a Jupiter was in the sign of Aquarius at that time, and that's just about going to happen again. But none of the other planets were doing anything similar to how they're going to be happening in the coming year. So one wonders where his 700 years comes from, whether it's just some kind of prophetic inspiration of some kind. But certainly the Aquarian conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn that's coming up does suggest a new possibility. But then there have been lots of other new possibilities in between 1321 and 2021, including the Protestant Reformation, which was a big one. And the Cathars were not Protestants in that sense, but although they were protesting about the Catholic Church. So one wonders where such a prophecy comes from, and we have them throughout history. And are they meaningful? Are they going to tell us anything? And the last occasion where a lot of stuff was going on around a prediction was 2012. And I myself wrote a book based on the channeling I've been doing with Nephilim, which was called The Teachings of the Nephilim 2012 and Beyond. And in that book, I investigated, what is the meaning of this change that's predicted in the Mayan calendar. It's obviously not going to be, I didn't ever think it was going to be like, this is the end of the world, in the pragmatic sense of the end of the world. But certainly since 2012, an enormous amount of change has happened at a phenomenal pace of time that makes one feel that one has entered into a new kind of dynamic about what it is potentially to be a human being. But let's go back to Guillaume. What does he say? The laurel will become green again. Well, this is perhaps a metaphor for heroism, because a laurel leaf is what you put on the head of the hero. It's a green crown of laurel. So perhaps he chose the word laurel to say that the heroic martyrdom of the Cathars would somehow be recognised in some ways, and the Gnosticism that they were preaching would have a revival of some kind. Now, there is a revival of Catharism. There are modern people who practice what the Cathars believed in. You can find them on the internet. And perhaps, they're taking their lead from what happened to those people and what those people believed about Jesus and about spirituality generally. So the good people that he's talking about could particularly be more Cathars being reincarnated, perhaps, and coming again and spreading the word again. For me, the good people don't necessarily have to belong to any particular religion. The, quote, good people, perhaps I would use the word the heart-feeling people, because I don't think labelling people as good or bad, or I certainly don't believe in using the word evil, except under very extreme circumstances, because most people are kind of shades on a spectrum of white to black. Most of us live somewhere along that spectrum. So I don't think any particular people would warrant being called the good people. But heartfelt people could come from all different groups. And I also have to say, they don't have to belong to any religion at all. I'm sure you can have heartfelt people who would describe themselves as atheists. I've got no problem with that, because it is actually the connection between people that warrants a real spirituality to me. An atheist might not like to use the word spirituality, but I think that's what it would be, even if they labelled themselves as atheist. And by the way, I think people who label themselves atheists have got a mistaken idea about what people who believe in, quote, God or divinity, whatever word you like to use, the way they think about it. They are atheists because they don't believe in the old man up in the sky giving the rules. And neither do I. So in that sense, I'm an atheist. But I believe in a spiritual connection between people. And that's what I mean by heartfelt, being a person who empathizes and allows whatever spiritual practice they want to engage with to focus on how they can stay open to other people, whatever group they belong to. And the Cathars the modern Cathars and the old Cathars may have been very special people. On the other hand, as soon as one group of people do label themselves and enclose themselves in a particularly restrictive kind of format for lifestyle and so forth, then there's a danger there that that restriction can close the heart to a certain extent. But we can have a think about that in deeper ways in future videos. But in the meantime, let's wonder whether 2021 will actually bring something forward which might fulfill Guillaume's prophecy that good people, or as I say, heartfelt people, will return. He uses the word return, but I would say make themselves present, because I think they're already here. So keep meditating, because that will keep you in touch with your heart. And that's a non-religious thing to do. It doesn't have to belong to any religious tendency or you know, you could be secular and still meditate and keep your heart open. So keep meditating and keep shining. Keep shining.